Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to turn to Nick Lambert and David Irvine from MaidSafe, an acronym for Massive Array of Internet Disks. Secure access for everyone. All right, David and Nick, welcome to the Keiser Report.
Hi, Max.
Thanks very much, Max.
First of all, to set the stage, going back a few years, I take it you guys were bitten by the Bitcoin bug and the whole Bitcoin phenomenon. And MaidSafe is like another iteration of this whole cryptocurrency phenomenon, correct? Tell us about it.
Well, MaidSafe was actually it was started in 2006, so it was 3 years before Bitcoin. And the idea really behind MaidSafe is that it's not so much currency, it's information. Information is the most important, valuable resource that we have, in my opinion anyway. So I was a bit concerned that we were getting to an internet where, for me to speak to you, I was going to have to go through Google or Facebook or Yahoo or whatever, and information was being owned by other businesses. And looking forward to the future, it doesn't seem to be a nice future when Scotty's got to log into Google to send a message to the Klingons, for instance. So we know in the future that information is not owned by businesses. And that's why MaidSafe started.
Okay, so let's, interesting. So before there was Bitcoin, there was this idea for MaidSafe.
Yeah.
And now, however, MaidSafe has become quite big because you've done an offering, you've raised a bunch of money around it. We'll get to that in a second. But just to kind of dig into what it is again, you're saying that information is not safe using protocols like Google and other places because it goes through their servers, and their servers are being monitored by foreign intelligence agencies, as we now know. And the Edward Snowden revelations, I take it the Edward Snowden revelations really gave you guys a shot in the arm, right?
They did. They just proved what we thought was to be the case. And literally, if you think about it, if you try and remember the top 5 phone numbers on your phone, you won't remember them because your phone remembers them for you. It does the translation. If you're trying to remember how to go from dollars to pounds or Celsius to Fahrenheit or whatever, Google remembers that for you. So just now we are going through a stage where most of our thoughts or short-term quick thinking is in the computer.
We're outsourcing our thinking to the computer.
To the computer. So if that computer or that information is owned by a corporation that's just going to mine that and sell it back to you, then that's a very poor way for the society to go forward. So
okay, now when you talk about information as a currency, and you're saying this kind of predates Bitcoin in a lot of ways, or it does, and in fact, when we know about what we know about Bitcoin is that it's two things. It's a way to transfer value around the internet, and it's also a store of value in the Bitcoin itself. Now, with MaidSafe, is it also a way to move value around the internet? And is it also a store of value? Is it comparable in that way?
It's very, very comparable. You can look at MaidSafe, the SafeCoin part of MaidSafe, which is a facilitation for the way that the network works. So if you're a farmer in the MaidSafe network, you've got a computer it's on, it's providing resources to the network, that's like a Bitcoin miner. So that's quite similar. There's no blockchain at all. It's completely distributed. So you can imagine that Bitcoin and protocols like that are a public ledger. They're very good for a public ledger. We need a public ledger. My opinion is government and corporations should be on that public ledger. People shouldn't. So the SafeCoin, the currency of the MaidSafe network, SafeCoin, is like cash. If I pay you in SafeCoin, nobody knows.
So there's no public ledger?
No.
It's a fully distributed network?
It's a fully distributed autonomous network, so this is the first of its kind. And the way that it works, really, everybody's computer joins together to form this great big cyber brain, if you like. You decide to connect to that brain. You decide, nobody else. You don't tell us, you don't tell anyone. And you store your data on it. You can start making safe coins, you can buy and sell things on it. But the important thing is you can access all the world's information.
Does it use encryption?
Several levels of encryption. Yeah.
Okay, let me jump over to Nick here for a second so we can, now you're the Chief Operating Officer of SafeCoin. So just to pick up on this thread, so it uses encryption. So when you're describing it here, it sounds like P2P file swapping, where people are using their hard drives to swap music files back and forth. But what you're saying is it's a distributed network that's fully encrypted, and it mimics Bitcoin in many ways, and that you can use it to exchange value as well as a store of value. Are we getting closer to this?
At its core, it's effectively a global decentralized data and communications network. So that's all form of communications. That's email, that's voice over IP. So what we're trying to do, Max, is effectively replace the internet and decentralize the internet. So the comparison to Bitcoin, I think, is a good one, is in the same way that Bitcoin's trying to replace financial institutions and intermediaries in financial transactions. MaidSafe's also trying to do the same with data. So we're removing data centers from data communications and potentially large technology companies. And so the individual users become this network. So we are doing for data what Bitcoin's doing for trade, is a phrase that we've coined.
Now, you guys are up in Scotland, up in Troon, Scotland.
Yeah.
And any particular reason why you are in Troon, Scotland, or you just happen to meet up there and that's just the way
We're there for the langoustines mostly.
The langoustine.
Yeah, very, very good up there. So.
I see. So that's kind of the whole company's power. Now, speaking of the company being powered by langoustines and also by some cash, because this is where kind of the rubber hits the road, you did raise some money recently. Again, this is an interesting phenomenon in the crypto space where these cryptocurrencies are raising money by selling cryptocurrency. You raised how much? $7 million?
At the time of investment, it was about $8 million.
$8 million?
In 3 days over 2 cryptocurrencies.
Okay. So this is, I think, is fascinating for folks that this was an offering in the crypto world that raised $7 to $8 million, and it happened quite quickly. I think in a day or two, this all happened very fast. So walk us through. You're the COO, Nick. Walk us through what that meant exactly. How did that work? What if I'm the average person on the web? What did I experience?
Yeah. So what we are selling is basically access tokens to the network. So we are pre-selling those access tokens so that people can buy those and then use those for services on the network when it launches.
You call it tokens and not coins?
I think for me anyway, they're pretty much one and the same thing. I mean, it's a network token, it's a network coin. It has...
Because there's a controversy about calling bitcoins coins because it flags the regulators. And a lot of people are saying, for example, as the founders of Skype, who went to battle with the phone companies, they decided not to call their end-to-end user communication systems with the same words that the phone company uses, and kind of snuck it in under the regulators' noses. In the Bitcoin space, there seems to be this idea that, maybe if we just called them tokens, we wouldn't have these regulators all over it because it's a token. So, but was that part of the thinking, or you just happened to come to this?
No, I think the currency itself is called MaidSafe coin, and then it'll be called Safe coin when the network is launched. So it's not a term that we've specifically shied away from, and I think, from what I've seen, the regulation part is maybe more the US side of things seems to be more concerned about regulation than anything I've seen from the UK government. So maybe that's a US issue.
Okay, so the folks they're involved with these tokens, and that gives them, what is that? That gives them access to the network?
Yes, applications are being built as we speak, and so they might be able to use these coins to access services in the network. So let's say someone launches a voice over IP, like a Skype type app, they might use one Safe coin for 10 minutes of chat. So they can start to use these coins for services in the network.
And so how many users are now involved in this network?
It's hard to say. Well, the network's actually not live yet, so there's currently 0 users, but we've got a fairly large community building up. We have probably over 700 people signed up to our developer mailing list. We have approximately 2,000 people participated in the crowd sale. So, and there seems to be a real market pull for our product as opposed to us pushing it onto the market. So there are no users yet, but there certainly seems to be a real demand for it, Max.
What about the general population? Obviously, these concepts are pretty difficult to get through to the general population. And is the message, is it something that you can actually bring forward to people and they are understanding what it is you're talking about, or how do you break through that? Because Bitcoin, it took several years to kind of reach any kind of mass or critical mass at all. What you're talking about is a variation on something that already people find kind of difficult to understand. How do you get the message out? In particular, how do you get that message communicated to people in terms of this is going to give them more sovereignty, if you will?
I think it's just the easy way is your data is your data. It doesn't belong to anyone else. Your thoughts are your thoughts. It doesn't belong to anyone else. The internet promised that, it hasn't delivered it. MaidSafe promises it and hopes to deliver it. and by all accounts, it looks as though we will. There's a lot of people that are working with us are very interested in what we're doing. There's a huge amount of code. There's 8 years of testing. So replacing internet is something that we hope to be able to do. Bitcoin allowed us to get that message out a little bit more clear than we could previously, because no one knew what decentralization meant.
So, and also, we've got about a minute. Maybe you guys can stay for another session because it's pretty fascinating stuff, but we've got about 30 seconds left. Can you speak a little bit about where Bitcoin uses mining, but you guys use farming. Yeah. So what's that all about?
We don't want to destroy resources. So we don't want to use electricity. So farming is more about you're looking after data. It's a precious commodity. You're looking after crops. It's a precious commodity. And for us, the ability to look after data is something that should be rewarded. So every node or every computer that's on the network is rewarded in SafeCoin. So this is the farming mechanism.
All right, I think we're going to talk more about this farming analogy when we pick up this conversation in part 2. But for now, I got to say goodbye. So let me say goodbye to everybody out there. That's it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guests, Nick Lambert and David Irvine from MaidSafe, who will be with us for another interview. If you'd like to get in touch, tweet us at Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all. Welcome back to the Keiser Report. I'm Max Keiser. Time now to return to Nick Lambert and David Irvine from MaidSafe, an acronym for Massive Array of Internal Disk Secure Access for Everyone. Gentlemen, welcome back.
Thanks, Max.
On our discussion about MaidSafe, this new phenomenon sweeping Scotland. So just to recap a little bit, for those who missed part 1, give us the little 20-second version of MaidSafe. What is it?
MaidSafe is the internet as it was supposed to be. It's the internet without intermediary companies. No one else owns your data. So if I'm going to speak to you in MaidSafe, I speak to you. Nobody knows that I'm speaking to you. Nobody can record that I'm speaking to you. And there's no ability to steal that information and sell it back to you. If you put data onto the MaidSafe network or the Safe network as it is, then it's there forever. It can't be deleted. It can't be corrupted. You don't need to back it up. That's it.
So the storage is on people's hard drives in this distributed network. And to be a part of the network, you get a token, essentially.
You get a token. You don't actually need it. We've actually been able to work out an algorithm where everybody in the world will be able to join this network for free and use it for free. Because one of my early things was, if some person in Africa is given the ability to contribute and consume the information, the knowledge, and leaps out from behind a bush and has cured cancer, there's the return. That's the important thing. That information, that ability to be spread worldwide means that we've got much more innovation spread worldwide.
But now you're cutting into the whole patent business. So patents become intellectual property that's highly protected, and the example of various plants actually in places like Africa and it being distilled by pharmaceuticals and patented and then sold back to the very Africans where they got it to begin with. So in this kind of system, that information goes into the network. It goes around all the current patent laws, becomes accessible for free, and because it enjoys all these levels of encryption, they can't get at it. The same way they can't get at Bitcoin because it's encrypted. They can't get at Proton Mail, which is a new encrypted mail service. So encryption is really the 21st century rallying cry for freedom. And Scotland is a place people rally for freedom. So you're all about the freedom.
Encryption is really important. The more important thing about the Safe network is based on natural design. It's based on the design that ant colonies use or things that can be found in nature. So yes, very, very high levels of encryption, but the ability for a computer to connect to a network of computers, be recognised as that computer, be ranked, and then given data to look after and make sure it's looking after the data, the network becomes almost like a live thing, and it's owned by no one. So if you go onto a network and speak to Nick, we don't know you've went onto a network, we don't know Nick's on the network, we don't know our customers, we don't know any information about our customers. And that's really important, and it's never been done before, because all of these, even Proton, any system out there just now that says, I'll give you security, what's your name? You're not secure. Or I'll give you security, log into this server that I control, you're not secure. Or put your data on this, it's fully encrypted, you're not secure, because I could delete it. So in the Safe network, You decide to join. We don't know you've done it. The network knows you've done it. It's that particular thing that's the network. You put your data on it. You interact with who you want to interact with. No one can look at you. And the IP address is scrubbed on the very first hop your data takes. So you can actually go through completely compromised routers. It doesn't. The network just doesn't care. It's encrypted all the way through. So this is a re-implementation of exactly what the internet should have been. It's the freedom for everyone. It's the ability for us to communicate and put information on and consume information free from large corporations. And that way, I believe that we'll get to the stage where we have news that's given to everyone that's free of propaganda. We are all controlled by this propaganda system. And I would like to see something where you get a piece of news that says 3 people were killed today in Jerusalem. One of them was a mum, one was a child, and one was a soldier. It doesn't matter. I don't want this corrupted.
Right, so once again, it's using distributed networking to disenfranchise all the gatekeepers and the middlemen so that it creates sovereignty and freedom for everybody on the network. And you guys are from Scotland. This is all happening in Scotland. Of course, I want to talk about Royal Bank of Scotland for a second, but before I do, we've got a lot of interest in that auction that happened. There's the auction of the coin. Then there was some controversy about the auction. Perhaps, Nick, you can walk us through the auction and what was the concern, and what would you say to folks now that are looking for some guidance on this?
Yeah, so I think what we're doing was we're, as I was saying in the kind of previous episode, we were auctioning off or kind of pre-selling the ability for users to buy these tokens, which would give them access to services in the network. And it was a sale that was intended to take 30 days. And we went through about $6 million in 5 hours. So it really kind of walloped us. And we were taking participation in 2 currencies. One was Mastercoin, another one was Bitcoin. And we anticipated getting, I would say, at least 75% Bitcoin and the rest in Mastercoin. And we felt that we wanted to support the Mastercoin guys with what they were doing because we were using their smart properties, which is a way of them issuing our tokens before our network's launched. So, but the crowd sale never worked out like that. It went so fast that we ended up with about a 50-50 split. And as it's obvious to anyone looking at coin market cap, Mastercoin is not hugely liquid. So what we've come away with is probably 50% of a nice liquid currency, Bitcoin, which is fantastic. And we've got 50% of a less liquid currency, Mastercoin, which we're kind of holding for the time being and seeing what happens there. But we've got reason to believe those guys are going to do some big things over the next few months. So
right. So Mastercoin is, I guess people call this Bitcoin 2.0. Yeah. It's more of a well, how would you describe it?
I would describe it as it's a way of integrating other things into the blockchain. So you can just basically log other things in the blockchain.
But isn't that similar to a colored coin concept?
Smart property.
Yeah.
A smart property or colored coin. So you take an individual coin, and because Bitcoin is being created on the hop for another 10 million coins or so over the next 100 years, this is the idea to pull one aside and say this has a limited supply right now, and you can do a stock offering, you can do a deal offering, you can treat it as a contract offering. Yours, of course, with SafeCoin, it's proof of it's a proof of resource versus proof of work. So how does that work, Dave?
Basically, the proof of resource is proof of retrievability of data. It's what you're doing, and we need. So the network, as I say, a computer connects to the network, and it's like this ant colony. It goes in and it grows as the network grows. It starts off as a small computer, an infant, and then it grows in rank. It's given data, and people ask for that data, and the network can tell that that computer gave that data, and if it did give the data, it's in a blind lottery to win a SafeCoin. And that's really the proof of retrievability of data, and that takes into account the machine, its uptime, its off time, its bandwidth, its CPU capability, and whatnot. Then, interestingly though, the network, as intelligent it is, has no ability to decrypt any of that data. The network, with all its power, can't decrypt the data. That has to be a human that does that. And that's automatically handled by the client. So proof of resource for us is a more natural way, because you're rewarding people for doing something that's good, not rewarding people for doing something which is burning electricity. And not that burning electricity was wrong for Bitcoin, because there was no autonomous network that allowed anyone to log into for any purpose in a secure and private manner when Bitcoin came out. There is now. So Bitcoin didn't have a choice, really. It had to use a kind of proof of work hashing mechanism, and that had to have these things like block size, time, the 10-minute thing. Somewhat unnatural and against the way I think. I'm always trying to think about how natural systems work and remove magic numbers. Magic numbers are a terrible thing in security, and particularly in encryption. It's one of the issues with some of the EC curves.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple of times ants, ant colonies, and this type of thing. And yeah. It seems like as economics and finance goes forward, there's more observation of the way things happen in nature in terms of the economics of it. Like the economics of photosynthesis, for example. It's a perfect, almost frictionless market, isn't it? It happens on the level of photosynthesis. How do you mimic that? How do you capture that with frictionless trading? And these ant colonies are now are known to be extraordinarily efficient, and et cetera. So do you draw on well, I don't know. I'm trying to segue into Royal Bank of Scotland somehow. In every in every natural system, there are rats and predators and lice and this type of thing. Yeah. And Royal Bank of Scotland, HSBC, Barclays, Lloyd's here in the UK. You know, I mean, you know, like your lower intestine has you know, parasites, but they're needed to some degree. Yep. But when they take over the body, you know, you die. Yep. So here you have like HSBC, a parasite, clearly a parasite. The chairman is out in the newspaper saying that enough of this banker bashing. You know, we paid our fines, and let's move on. Yeah. Now, when you read something like that, does that make you feel like, well, you know, the banks are going to start behaving better now, so maybe we should just give up what we're doing?
No, from a natural system perspective, in nature, any excess and greed leads to the demise of that species. So something that's over greedy actually eats its own food supply and dies. The bank ate its own food supply of free money and should have died. But we kept it alive in a very unnatural system. It was unnatural and also anti-capitalist and anti-every other system we could imagine. So,
what would Adam Smith, one of the famous residents of Scotland, what would he think? What would he be looking at this current banking system right now? Would he be appalled?
Utter collapse. The thing about money and Safecoin is, I'm very focused on this, that to me, money is oil that drives an engine. And if you have someone that keeps taking that oil out and putting it in their own reservoir, the engine goes dry and dies. So money, when it's used as a transfer of product and service worldwide, which was Adam Smith's real goal, was I can sell you my product or labour for however much you're prepared to pay for it. It wasn't, and somebody in the middle is going to double the profit on it. So the idea of money, and I think if we consider money like just an oil for an engine, it's got to flow, and if people are taking that oil out, then we have to stop them. And making money from money is a ridiculous thing. It was illegal. It was anti every Bible, I think, in the world.
Usurous interest.
Usury was illegal up to Henry VII or something. So the ability to make money out of money is a terrible thing.
You know, we're gonna have to stop it there. But one quick question: when does it launch?
Testnet 1's up and running now. Testnet 2 and 3 are another 6 weeks each. So this year. We're up and running now.
Thanks, guys, for being on the Keiser Report.
Thank you. Thanks, Max. Thank you, Max.
All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Keiser Report with me, Max Keiser, and Stacey Herbert. I'd like to thank our guests, Nick Lambert and David Irvine from MaidSafe. If you'd like to get in touch, tweet us, Keiser Report. Until next time, bye, y'all.